Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm back with chapter 8 of Manhardeep Singh's The 12 Laws of the Universe. I'm not sure if that comes across reversed or not. I need to check that. And this is a law of perpetual transmutation of energy. And it says energy is always moving and always changing. This is one of my favorites when I'm feeling especially stuck. Thus far, we've talked about the importance of energy and maintaining a high vibration. In fact, that each one sounds good, but we all know that life throws us curveballs and just throws us curveballs that just plain suck. If we only had the primary seven universal laws, we'd be living in fear of negative situations. This law reminds us that there's nothing to be scared of because energy is usually in flux, and better still, you've got the power to transmutate or change it. He refers to it as the superpower law. This may sound as if you have a superpower, and that's because you do. It is one of those things that sound obnoxiously easier than it is. You would have heard energy flows where attention goes, which is the gist of this law. Who is the thinker of your thoughts? You are. So by exercising your power to activate thoughts that serve you instead of those that don't, you can transmutate negative vibes first into neutral ones and then into happier territory. This quote is by Viktor Frankl, and he was an Australian neurologist and psychologist, and he has several quotes, but the author puts this one in here, and I love it. Between stimulus and response, there is space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. And you've heard it's said before where you can't control the things that maybe happen to you, but you can control your response. This is a really good example, or like analogy of that, because we do decide how we're going to respond, and how we respond does determine our growth, or sometimes lack thereof, where we kind of got to go back to the drawing board, because we're human, we're all going to make mistakes. So you remember Dwayne, the annoying barista from the first law. Let's say he got fired from his job and came home to see that his boyfriend Ben left him. Shitty things happen, and there's sure to be some low frequency thoughts that arise: anger, resentment, sadness, and so on. These emotions are valid and should be acknowledged, but there's a difference between acknowledging and wallowing. And I have said before, I've told myself this too, it's fine to visit there, right, in that wallowing or sadness, or I throw myself a pity party every now and then, but I don't unpack and live there. So I might just have a really bad day, and I'll say it's okay, I'm going to feel bad for myself. I will sit with these feelings, but I know I'm going to go to sleep and I'm going to wake up and things are going to be very different. I'm not going to stay in that spot. I'm determined not to. And so that right there, I think, is a good example of the difference between acknowledging and wallowing. And I used to wallow a lot. I still will sometimes, but I really try to stay in that mindset of, okay, this is what we're doing today. Have your little pity party, feel sorry for yourself, but tomorrow we're back on track. So I acknowledge it, but then I try to really. It's not easy. I'm not saying it's easy. It's a simple thing, I guess, when you think about it, but sometimes the simple things are not easy. Because again, let's not forget, we are human, we're having a human experience, and we have all these different emotions, we have so many different things going. There's so many different facets of life, and everybody's living a completely different life experience. And so like I said, it seems like a very simple thing, but it's not always easy. It does take work, and a conscious effort for sure. And sometimes there's times that you just can't come out of it, and sometimes you need a little more help. I've been there. I get it. Eventually, the pity party gets to an end, and Dwayne must pick himself up again by upgrading his thoughts to ones that serve him instead of ones that keep him stuck at the pity party. This is key, upgrading, your thoughts. Maybe he didn't like that job anyway, so this just means he'll have more time to focus on finding a much better one. As for Ben, he was such a mess that Dwayne would spend hours cleaning up his messes after coming home from his shift. So now his thoughts begin to shift, wherein he can spend more time enjoying his clean home. The energy shift doesn't happen overnight, but in small steps, things are beginning to get better for Dwayne. Advice: you always have the ability to trigger positive change in your life by choosing a better feeling thought in any given situation. Be aware of the stories you tell yourself and upgrade them into the ones that get you closer to where you would like to be instead of keeping you stuck where you are. The law of perpetual transmutation of energy states that everything around us is in constant flux. You can't see all those changes because many of them exist at the cellular or atomic level, but they keep on going regardless. Just like, we know particles, what things are made up of atoms, and, we got electrons and neutrons and all. We don't see any of it with the naked eye, but we know they're there and they're still working. They're still existing, and making up all of the things that we're looking at or we're touching, and the things that we use. Sort of the same thing when you put it in when you think about it that way. So even though we're not maybe seeing the differences right away when we're trying to make those better choices or having the better thoughts, same thing if we're having worse thoughts, there are things still changing at that sub level that we're not seeing yet. They're just not apparent just yet. The reason that this is so important to be aware of this law is that it helps you see how you have the ability to trigger positive change. Specifically, how high vibrations can trigger improvements in low vibrations. For instance, if you are vibrating at a low frequency, exposing yourself to the high frequency of a cheerful, encouraging friend will naturally trigger energy transmutation in you. And this is very true for me as far as a friend, or very uplifting music. If I'm just a little bit off, I absolutely reach out to a friend, because sometimes just changing my environment takes me out of it. It doesn't even have to be earth shattering, but it breaks my thought. The momentum doesn't keep going for my negative thoughts. I'm forced to think of something else if I'm out talking to someone else. And I also listen to all of my music. Lyrics mean a lot to me. So music for me can really make or break my mood. So I like to put on really, cheerful music, or I'll, put it on loud and I'll sing. And it absolutely helps me. Maybe music isn't your thing. Maybe reading a book is your thing. Maybe doing a puzzle is your thing to break your train of thought. Sometimes just breaking that negative train of thought is all you can do at the moment if you're not ready to jump into and say, hey, I'm gonna, have this, start having all these positive thoughts. Sometimes you just have to stop the momentum of the negativity. And this goes back to the analogy I said in one of my videos that I got from Abraham Hicks at one point, was the momentum of a car. If a car starts forward down a hill and you're standing right in front of it and you have to stop that car, you might be able to stop that car, or it's going to be easier. But if you stand at the bottom of that hill and you wait until that car picks up momentum, it's going to level you. You're not stopping the car at that point. It has too much momentum behind it. And that is exactly the same with our thoughts. The faster we can stop the momentum of the negativity, the faster we can kind of change and switch direction. But this also goes for positivity. So when we're having positive thoughts, the more we have, the more momentum those thoughts pick up in the positive direction, and the harder it is to stop the positivity. So the goal is to really get the momentum going on the positive thoughts and the positive energy, because then it's harder to stop that. Then something happens, and if you're in such a way, it's like, oof, well, that was a setback, but it's a little easier to get back on track. Because you have that momentum behind that positivity. And I've experienced this. I don't know if any of you have, but for me, that's how I have to understand it and kind of put it in my brain, and that's how it makes sense. This law, so back to the book. I keep getting sidetracked. I'm so sorry. This law states that on an energetic level, everything within the universe is continually evolving or fluctuating. Every action is preceded by a thought, with thoughts themselves having the ability to eventually manifest into our physical reality. Have you ever been around a negative person and felt your own positivity depleting? Yes, that's one example, but it also can work the opposite way around. Higher frequencies transmute lower ones when applied with intention. Knowing this, we can actively seek to uplift negative energy around us with our thoughts and actions. This law means that even the smallest action can have a profound effect. Like the seed of a mighty tree holds all its promise in its tiny shell, you also have the power within you to move mountains. To put the law into practice, it is recommended to do small things that will uplift your energies every day, whether it is singing in the shower, dancing like nobody is watching, or anything that works for you. Remember, small changes equal big results. And, I talked to you already about, the music and things like that really, do help me. Small things. I've also been told, and I've tried this and it does work. If you're feeling really bad and you're stuck, sometimes just helping someone else or doing something really small for someone else helps you feel better. So let's say you're just not feeling that great. You go to the store, you see the cashier is she's just not in a good mood. Maybe the store's been really busy. Instead of maybe saying, or brushing it off like, oh, she's just cranky today, maybe try to, really mean it when you say it. And I've done this. I just say, thank you for coming into work today. I know today it seems kind of stressful. I hope your day gets better. You don't know how that's going to affect someone. And believe it or not, that it helps you too, because you put something positive out there, not negative. And that small thing can sometimes be just enough for you. And I'll leave you guys with this. I read, and I've mentioned this book before, The 5 People You Meet in Heaven. And it is a fictional book. But I read it after my dad passed, and because everybody told me it was such a great book. And the thing I that made me think in this book is, when the author talks about the 5 people you meet in heaven, and people expect to, be meeting, all these people that passed. Not saying that doesn't happen, but in this particular book, the person who passed, sees people that he doesn't even remember in his life. But what had happened is basically, and I don't want to ruin it, but he sees how something really, really small he did this person carried with them through their life. And this can be something good or bad. Keep in mind. So one positive comment to someone can really help. You don't know how it's going to help them. You don't know how long they're going to carry that. You don't know what path it's going to put them on or what direction it's going to put them in. And again, it makes you feel good just knowing you said something nice to someone, hoping you were a small, tiny ray of sunshine in their otherwise seemingly crappy day. But the same goes for if you're too quick to say something negative or nasty to someone, you don't know what that's going to do to them. And it's not going to make you feel good in the end, because when you reflect on it, I've done it. I know people have done it. They think, why did I didn't need to say that. I was just in a bad mood. But you don't know that ripple effect that it's going to have on that person. And I'm not trying to lecture anybody or anything like that. But it's just more about it's just being self-aware and thinking, how can I be of service and help? So, and the energy does change. It really, really does. And that is, it transmutates, as, the author says. So I hope you guys enjoyed this chapter. As always, put comments in the, comment box if you have any. If you have any questions, just shoot me a put the questions down there. I'll get back to them, and I'm happy to answer it. And I love hearing other people's input and interpretations of this. Okay. I hope you guys have a great rest of the day. Bye.